Good morning to you. Mark Stott with HurricaneTrack here. Tuesday now, the 19th of August, 2025, coming to you from the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I'm in Rodanthe. Excuse the backlighting there. Kind of makes me look like I'm in the Witness Protection Program or something. In a nice house here in Rodanthe. Really appreciate our friend of the project for many, many years allowing us to set up out here and do what we need to do. And related to that, Hurricane Erin going to bring a lot of impacts out here, but not what we are typically used to seeing when there is a hurricane threat. We're going to have part of the impacts, but none of the rest of it. You know, not the big time bands, not the hurricane wind or anything like that, but rather a very churned up Atlantic, a lot of energy being sent out from this hurricane, a very large wind field, and we are going to see some significant beach erosion, overwash, maybe even property damage. And this is not just going to be eastern North Carolina. I'm going to show you, using one of the USGS maps that I've got queued up in the many tabs today, what I think is going to happen over the next few days to a good chunk of the East Coast. And, of course, we'll talk about what's going on elsewhere in the tropics. So pretty big update for you today. Let's get started. Newest info on our hurricane as of the 11 o'clock hour. Storm surge and tropical storm warnings now in effect for the North Carolina Outer Banks, right where I am. Life-threatening rip currents, I have hammered on that a lot, and for good reason. That is really a big problem. We don't want to have people dying in the rip current, so please respect that. Check out these different thumbnail graphics from the National Hurricane Center homepage, nhc.noaa.gov, or just hurricanes with an S, hurricanes.gov. You can jump on there, check out these different thumbnails. For example, and this is a good one here, you got the peak surge, very helpful to understand what is expected. And these are above ground, feet above ground level, up to 4 feet from Duck, North Carolina down to Cape Lookout, 1 to 3 feet in some of the other areas. And this includes southeastern Virginia and the southern portions of the Chesapeake Bay. Not much rainfall associated with the hurricane for land areas at all. A very unusual situation where we're just dealing with the surge and wave setup. One of the big impacts, of course, but yeah, it's a little bit different, but it shows how large the circulation is with our hurricane. Speaking of the hurricane, let's check out the latest graphic here from the Hurricane Center on the forecast cone. And again, you see the track, the cone, the dots, whatever, and you think, dude, it's passing well southeast of North Carolina and elsewhere. What is the big deal? Well, this is the center of circulation, the eye, if you will, whatever you want to call it, the core. That's for the core. That's for that. The rest of the hurricane is enormous. The wind field, the whole bit. I think people are finally catching on to this. They're understanding it more and more as we talk about it more, that the cone and the forecast track is only for the center. So when people say, oh, it's a fish storm, or oh, it's out to sea, they are talking about, and I understand where they're coming from. I totally get it. I'm with you. You're talking about the core when you say it, but inadvertently you're dismissing the rest of the storm or the hurricane. And that's just how that works. Because look, the Hurricane Center's got it drawn in here. Big old wind field. These are your tropical storm force winds, hurricane force winds around the center. That is the entirety of the hurricane, not just one dot, a geographic center, latitude and longitude of where the eye is. And so when people say, oh, it's going to go out to sea, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about these little dots here. It's not a dot on a map. We know that. We just have to rethink things, unlearn the old ways, and get used to looking at things from a different perspective. And here you go. That's the entirety of it. There's Erin, sheared as it may be. We're going to talk about that. It's got some mechanical issues today, definitely, but that's the whole ball of wax, so to speak, right? There it is, not just a little dot where the lat long is for the center of circulation. This is what is forecast to turn away like that, not the whole darn thing. That's not going to miss, not the waves. I mean, really. Again, I know I'm harping on it. Excuse me for that. It's just important we understand more about what we're dealing with. That's all it is. So yeah, it's getting sheared, definitely, but that should relax pretty soon. We'll talk about that. in the discussion from the Hurricane Center in just a moment. Let's use this blue color here. There's the center of Erin right there. Strong winds overtopping the top of it, cutting off the deep thunderstorms. There's even some drier air sitting out there. However, going back to the Hurricane Center homepage, I do want to take a look at the forecast discussion, a very important part of the overall process here. This was written by, does Pash ever go home? Remember yesterday, last evening when I did my update, it was Forecaster Pash. Come on, Dr. Pash, you got to take some time out, bro. Anyway, key messages. Erin is expected to produce life-threatening surf and rip currents. We know that. Storm surge flooding, tropical storm conditions are expected right where I am. It'll be, the storm surge will be accompanied by large waves, and these are going to be huge, leading to significant beach erosion overwash, making some roads impassable. So that's going to be a big problem as well. Heavy rain bands down in the Turks and Caicos, not so much for land masses of the North America proper, east coast of the United States. However, interest along the U.S. mid-Atlantic and southern New England and on Bermuda should also monitor the progress of Erin, as strong winds are possible Thursday and Friday. Yes, the mid-Atlantic, southern New England, and Bermuda. Why? Because it is expected to be enormous with its wind field. So, right here, again, I mentioned this last night, it should be noted that the 34 and 50 knot wind speed probabilities beyond the next 3 days in the text and graphical products are likely underestimating those risks, because the whole wind field is so much larger than the average compared to what's used to derive the whole thing. It's an anomaly. I talked about that last night. The intensity of Erin, predicting it going forward, is somewhat problematic. Given the current disorganization of the cloud pattern, one would be reluctant to call for restrengthening. However, the dynamical guidance shows increasingly anticyclonic upper-level flow. Fancy way of saying the shear should relax right there over the system, and the ship's model, that is statistical hurricane intensity prediction scheme, diagnoses a significant decrease in that vertical shear. Therefore, we do see a little bit of re-strengthening in the next 36 hours. We shall see. Huge hurricane inbound, even if the center does not pass over land. That's not going to matter. So there it is sitting out there. What else is happening in the tropics? Let's address that real quick. Believe it or not, that is newly designated 99L. This is a large area of disorganized stuff, convection, a little bit of it, dry, dusty air coming off up here, and neither of these systems pose any significant threat anytime soon, so don't worry about those too much right now. Probably going to see, just to put this out there, a little bit of a downtick, and maybe even, is downtick a word? I think it is. A downtrend, whatever you want to call it, inactivity. Things should simmer down once Erin clears the pattern for a period of time, because we're going to be entering a more suppressed phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation, just generally a window that closes, if you will, on the tropics. But as we end August and get into September, things should start to pick up again, more likely the first week of September and beyond. And if you remember the last 3 years, look, I know a lot has happened with everything the last 3 years. 22, 23, and 24, all three hurricane seasons really waited until later in September to get going. And for them, well, 23, of course, we had a dahlia there in August leading into September. But 22 and 24 definitely saw a late September blooming of everything. From what I'm seeing and the stuff that I'm reading from different colleagues out there, it looks like that will commence a little earlier this year. And I'm going to show you what Erin's going to do that I think, if my theory holds, could help to give us a very busy back-loaded season. So even after Erin and things calm down, they probably will pick up again. And part of that's climatology, the old, well, duh, it's hurricane season. Yes, but there are more mechanics to it than just that, all right? And I'll explain that as we go along. So a few things to point out. Very important stuff here. The rip current threat is high in all of the red areas. Once again, to my point about It's going out to sea. Let me get a color here. We'll use this white color. From southeast Florida, with the exception of parts of the Delmarva, all the way up, and we'll even include into Maine. Why not? Because moderate is significant. That is a huge chunk of coastline directly related to the hurricane, so I don't want to hear about all that indirect impacts. This is going to put people in the hospital, guarantee it, and hopefully everybody comes home. I'm very serious about this. I've seen it. The life guards, the beach rescue folks, it is tough on them. Puts their lives at risk. They're not, Aquaman. They can't go out there and just do whatever with no consequence. So if you see the double red flags, or you're a little bit, concerned at all, I probably shouldn't go in the water. Listen to your instincts, right? Be careful out there. This is going to be a surfer's dream, but even surfers can get caught up in this, and you got to be careful. Those waves crash, and that energy comes down on top of you. Your head gets shoved into the sand. You can get some neck and back injuries. Got to keep you safe. That's my number one goal. Seriously. So pay attention to this. It is there for a reason. Red in nature usually says something is bad or dangerous, usually, and the same holds true in weather, right? Absolutely. Storm surge stuff, we talked about this a little bit already, 2 to 4 feet where I am. That's going to be problematic. And then, of course, the storm surge watch is now a warning. Should see some coastal flooding. Most of these have already gone over, so we'll just keep on moving. Now, this is one of the things I want to show you from the USGS. If you go to weather.gov, and you know what, let me just show you, because I try to be as helpful as I can. Let's see, let's just do it this way. There we go. Go to weather.gov, weather.gov, click on the rivers, lakes, and rainfall. I will highlight it for you. Click on that right there. And that, my friends, will take you to the master page here, the landing page of all of the flood stuff in the whole country. And then you can use your, if I can get this to cooperate, there we go. Then you can use your mouse, whatever you're using. You can do this on a pad as well, a tablet, whatever. You zoom in, and you can see the area you're interested in. And for us, in this update, it is eastern North Carolina, the mid-Atlantic, on up into parts of New England. So these are our different tide gauges. For example, let's zoom in so we can get closer here. The tide gauge over at Duck, the Atlantic coast at the Duck Pier, this is significant. Look at this flooding that is expected as we get to the 21st here. The high tide cycle on the 21st. Late after this, let's see what time this is. I forgot you can mouse over this. So this is around 7 p.m. 7 feet, so just 0.8 below the record. The record! Seriously. So that's going to be big, major flooding, and this is representative of a good chunk of the Outer Banks. Now, these are lower down here because the wave approach is not the same, but even down here at the Coast Guard, Pamlico Sound area, minor flooding, that's coming up. Areas in down east North Carolina, this is applicable anywhere that you want to look. Now, let's check out some of these areas up here at the Chesapeake Bay, for example. This is what I'm talking about. This is a big deal. You know, starting to look at major flooding, just entering the major flooding, south end here at the Lynnhaven River, for example. And this is because, and I mean, look at that. We're getting there towards the record as well. 5.8 feet. Major flooding, all the purple. You should check this out yourselves for areas that you're interested in anywhere, for any kind of flooding, not just hurricanes. Lots of great information here, but this shows you how much of the coastline is going to be impacted. Our friends up here in New Jersey, you know, we're looking at oranges and reds. We're getting into moderate flooding at times. Yeah, we need to take this seriously. There could be some property damage, and people are going to be impacted by this economically. Definitely, all right? What's it going to do? Well, this is interesting. This is the Euro, and I'm going to warn you right now. The Euro, like, what is it doing with the intensity? It's kind of wacky. It has the initial intensity pretty good at about 952 millibars. This is the initial condition. But as we move this through time, I don't know, I think the Euro is overdoing it a little bit. It starts to strengthen it almost immediately. 938 or so, 927, 930. I don't know about that. That's pretty aggressive. That's like some old H-Wharf stuff. Or when you see people run the HUR, or the 3-kilometer NAM, what we call convectively allowing models, on a hurricane, and you get these like 870 millibar runs because it just goes haywire. I don't know what the Euro is doing, but I'm going to tell you what, if this thing gets down to 915, I don't know. That would be pretty something. I don't think that's going to happen. But it does show that the Euro, the global model, is indicating more strengthening as it passes by the Outer Banks. And you can see some of these greens over here indicating tropical storm, force winds, probably, and that's 10 meters, by the way, getting to the coast. So, yeah, this will be problematic, and then it makes that turn out into the Atlantic. And I want to expand the view and show you what happens with this gigantic wind field. Even eastern New England could see possibly tropical storm conditions up there. Wouldn't surprise me at all if extreme southeast New England goes under a tropical storm warning at some point. But then the hurricane goes into the North Atlantic and really does a number on the sea surface temperature anomalies. This is one thing that I'm going to be watching closely. That is where Erin has already chewed away these anomalies. And once it makes that turn, the overall envelope of energy, we're going to really hack away at these positive anomalies in the North Atlantic. And that's going to further set the stage for this to take over better. And look, not trying to fearmonger, likes, clicks, impressions, whatever. I don't care. I want to inform people. This is what happens. This is how you get the tropics to overperform later. Do I know that that's going to happen? Of course I don't. I don't have a crystal ball, but logic and science and history and just looking back at how things work would seem to suggest that once Erin, this giant ocean churning machine, whacks away a lot of that subtropical energy in the oceans, that the deep tropics are going to become more favorable just in time for, wait for it, the peak of hurricane season. So climatology will then click with a much more favorable background state. So remember, climatology is the history, and then the background state is the current situation. Those two lining up, I think after this happens, that we can have a very tumultuous mid to late September through October, and maybe even beyond. So stay tuned. That'll be interesting to watch, and we have to be ready for it. All right, so HurricaneTrack Insider, that is our main way to see all that we are doing. That is our crowd-funded project. HurricaneTrack.com now redirects. It's all living over on Patreon. We have over 2,000 members sitting over here with several hundred supporting it financially. If you sign up and you support the project through HurricaneTrack on Patreon, you have access to this. And this is what it's all about. The coding of the website, the interactive map that I show you, this thing. All of that is created from our supporters. I didn't do this. I'm not good at this kind of stuff. But I'm very fortunate to have people supporting the project in many different ways. And part of that is to get us ready for events just like we're having now. So what I'm going to do, we've already got these permanent cameras sitting out here, and I showed you these yesterday evening. This is right at the pier, literally a couple hundred yards from where I am right now. Look at those waves coming in. These have been on Fox Weather lately. By the way, I fully expect that we'll see some major run-up here, and then this road's going to get flooded. I'm going to put a camera sitting down here, and we're going to watch this from point-blank range. These cameras right here I'm showing you are, again, our permanent cams. I'll zoom out and show you we have a few more around the country, our own little tiny version of Earth cams, I guess. And boy, it is tiny. We only have a few, but we're lucky in that regard. And what I'm going to do is work with one of our friends out here, Brad, to place cameras in and around the area in select locations where we can see the impact of these big waves, what we call the wave run-up, and any storm surge that happens at point-blank range. There's all kinds of traffic cams, the DOT cams, even our permanently mounted cams. They're all high up. That's not where we live. That's not where we drive. I want to put you in the action, in the effects, and then we can actually see over time how these impacts unfold. Aha, there's science baked into the wow factor. We all want to see, we're all curious, but we can extract the science out of it. How fast did it happen? What were the currents like? Did the engineering stand up? Were the dunes erased quickly? Did it take longer? All kinds of stuff. We put this stuff out there, share it with different universities, different conferences. We get the science later while we enjoy, quote unquote, the ability to watch from a safe distance, because I'm not going to stand out there with a camera myself. That would be suicide. It really would. So if you would like to join and support and just be a part of it, we'd love to have you. Go over to patreon.com/HurricaneTrack. You can sign up. The $10 level gets you into the HurricaneTrack Insider site. We have a Discord as well, which is very active. We love it. Love to have you as part of it. There are other levels as well, honestly. If you want to join into those, we'd love to have you. But that's what we do. It's all crowd-funded, crowd-supported, and I'm the face of it. I'm like the leader of the band, the co-op, the comedy troupe sometimes, whatever, right? And it's really a privilege to be able to do this. Now, speaking of that, before I let you go, tomorrow night I was going to do our 20 years of doing it live YouTube special. Clearly I'm going to be out here working, probably going to be out here for several days. That's a whole other story. So let's reschedule. I don't know exactly when, maybe the 25th, the 28th, coming up on the 20-year anniversary of Katrina itself. So stay tuned about that. I mentioned it the other day. What was it, Friday? Nothing since, because I was seeing this coming. And anyway, we're going to do it. It's going to be a great live event on YouTube where myself, Jesse Bass, Mike Watkins, we all get together, talk about the birth of live streaming weather events on the internet. We started it 20 years ago, from remote cams to the vehicle stuff. We were the ones that brought it to you first, way back in 2005, and we'll talk about that at another time. I was hoping to do it tomorrow, but we're going to have to reschedule. All right? So with that, let me drop out, get this video rendered and on to you guys, and do with it as you may. All right? Thanks for tuning in. I'll have all these cameras up and running. We will have some YouTube Live going from out here as well. And then I'll also see you on Fox Weather from time to time. From Rodanthe, North Carolina, I'm Mark Sudduth. Talk to you again later on.